Jeff at Big Hairy Dog. Welcome to the webinar on Prism. Prism, I guess the first question is to define what it is. Retail Pro's definition is that it's the latest technology for the Retail Pro family. Its architecture utilizes a modern web-based platform that allows the retail freedom of choice, both for environment and platform. Prism delivers outstanding agility, data security, and operational control for specialty retailers with reduced hardware and administration requirements. Prism is a web-based modular point-of-sale software. That's what Prism is. You can see here on the screen I've got the main login for Prism, and it is in a browser, and that's my laptop, and it's just pointed at my laptop. Let's go ahead and sign in, and we should see the main menu as it exists today. So first point would be that today, because this is the only module that's released, and this is the point-of-sale module with point-of-sale customers and XE out, today Prism requires Retail Pro 9 in order to input items, receive, transfer, to do everything else. Prism requires version 9 today. Long term it's not going to, but today it does. As I said, it's browser-based. It is not, you can choose your own database. Today we can choose the Oracle one. I'm choosing the Oracle one because I'm using V9 and there's already a database, but you can use my SQL or Marina database, and there's more databases to come. They're working on more interfaces. It's customizable. The interfaces are all customizable, not the same as version 8 and version 9, but they are customizable. The operating system doesn't matter. It's operating system agnostic. It doesn't care if you're in Windows or if you're on a Mac or on a tablet. So it's browser agnostic as well. It doesn't matter if you're in Internet Explorer, Chrome, Safari, Firefox. Doesn't matter. It's hardware agnostic. It has a proxy that we install to interface with hardware, and you install the normal Windows and or OPAS drivers, and you set through the proxy. You set it up to use the hardware, and it has built-in touch menus, or you can develop your own touch menus built into Prism as not an add-on feature, which I find to be pretty exciting because a lot of people like touch menus, and we'll take a look at those in a bit. So let's take a quick look at some deployment options. So Retail Pro outlines two methods for deployment, distributed and centralized. So distributed options basically are the way that Retail Pro is deployed today. So distributed, here you see like the main polling to a store, and there's a machine at both ends where they go from across the internet, across the cloud, whatever, and the server in the store then has some workstations, and the store is self-contained with its server and its workstations. Here on the next slide, we just add a tablet to the mix, but we're still running off the server at the store. And here we add the little databases on the workstations. So here we're adding a MySQL database to the local workstations, and then the local workstations are polling almost real time. I mean, it's an RSS feed basically. It's a data feed. It's feeding to the server there in the store all the time. But if the server went down, those two workstations could operate independently indefinitely, as long as they had credit card approval. So if the server was down but the internet was up, we'd still be operating on those two workstations. The tablet would not be operating unless you were running like a Dell tablet with full Windows and you had your own MySQL database on there as well. So let's talk about centralized. This is the other option that Retail Pro outlines. in this scenario here, we've got the same 3 devices in the store. However, they're all running on the cloud. So here, we are really tied to the internet. We are full-fledged. If we lose the internet, we're down. So obviously, the next step would be to add little databases to the workstations so that we are not completely on the cloud and that we do have some ability to run our workstations, at least if the internet goes down, or if we lose, if the corporate goes down, or if something happens out there in the wide world of the internet. At least we could operate. As long as we can get credit card approvals, we would be self-sufficient on those 2 workstations. Again, the tablet here in this case would go down because it doesn't have that backup database. So all right, so we should go take a look at Prism, right? So here we're going to go make a new transaction and kind of explore, walk through the transaction, look at some of the menus. I'm going to click New Transaction, and there we go. We're on a regular point-of-sale screen for Prism, and we're going to, scan an item in, beep, and we can scan another item in. I'm just typing it in because I don't have a scanner hooked up to my laptop, but you get the idea. So we ring some items in. We go over here to Tender, and we could start by taking some cash. We could type in the amount, or we could use little buttons. Take, got some change. We give it a change back. Print update. There's our receipt. Printer email. Email is not set up. There's our change window, and it resets back to make a new sale. All right, so making sales is pretty straightforward. Let's add a customer. Of course, there's more than one. Nice. Cancel. Return to document. All right, I'm having some difficulty with my customers here. If anybody has any questions, feel free to go ahead and, like I say, ask them. I always encourage questions because that tends to make it more exciting for everyone. All right, so I grabbed a customer. It took me 3 tries. We can see that this customer has a store credit up here at the top. And if we want to see more information on the customer, we can click the Details button, and it'll give us more information on them. We rang up a couple of items. We should take a quick look at the items detail. So on either item, we can click this Details button, and all the functions of Retail Pro that are now there are available. So we've got our discounting here, item details, shipping, associates, item notes, on-hand quantity. We also have some transaction details over here, so let's click into there and take a look at those. Again, these are all features of Retail Pro that I'm not going to go into deeply because if you use Retail Pro, you should know these already, and this isn't a Retail Pro webinar. But you got your POS flags here and your comments, your fees, your shipping, associates, price levels, discounts, taxes, if you need to exempt tax or something, and the notes. And we also have a little bottom menu down here that I always overlook, but this is where we could cancel or hold the transaction. Let's go back to tender. Let's change our tender type. And this guy has a customer store credit. It's prompting us to use the store credit. I'm going to say no. And we'll go to tender types and select credit. And of course, I don't have a credit card processing set up on my laptop. All right, so there's your basic point of sale screen. Let's go back down to the bottom here. This is the menu at the very bottom, and we can then go back to the main menu, and let's take a look at the POS touch menus. Now I set up a brief sort of touch menu. It probably could have been done quicker. I set it up quickly before the webinar, and I probably should go back in there and redefine it. But I just set up two things, pullovers and slacks. So we'll click into pullovers, and of course I define both buttons the same, and that's the part I'm kind of struggling with. Can't tell what size is what. But you can bring up something from a menu, and the cool thing here is that these buttons can be menus or items or both. And that's standard, by the way, with touch menu setup in all of the touch menus we've used with Retail Pro at least. Let's go into slacks. Again, I've set up like 5 of these slacks. You can't tell what size. I need to go back in and fix that. But we can browse in, go back to our main menu. You know, the hard part with touch menus is deciding the drill down, not setting the buttons up. The buttons set up pretty simply in all the versions, in the version 8, the version 9 plugins, and in this Prism version, they're all basically the same. You have to say what you're going to do, whether it's a menu or an item, and if it's an item, you have to say what the item is. So we can also, of course, bring up regular items. So I'm going to just bring in a couple of regular items as I did on the other side. So this screen works both ways. You could use it to scan in product, to add customers, to use the menus. You want to try and be careful when you're setting your menus up. My rule of thumb is no more than 3 clicks down. So you can see you could get 4 or 5 buttons across and 4 or 5 buttons down, so you at least 20, 25 buttons on the touch menu screen. If each one of those is a menu and leads you to another 25 buttons, that's just one level down to get a whole lot of product. Now, if you go down another level, that exponentially gets to be quite a lot of items. So you shouldn't really have to go down too deep, if you see where I'm going. All right, so let's go ahead and tender, and we will take $100, and then we will change our tender type over to credit and take a Visa and print update. So we just split tendered it. All right, so let's talk about some simple screen modifications. Now, screen modifications today are done in HTML. They are working on an interface to do receipt design, document design, but right now basically all of the modifications for screen and for documents are done in HTML. So I'm just going to do a little work in the background here. And we're going to go ahead and do a little refresh here. And you can see that I just changed the menu. So let's go back to the main menu here. Point of sale. Let's go back and do a regular transaction. So I just replaced a file that holds the HTML for the main menu, and that just changed a few things around a little bit, made some of the fields transparent, and I obviously added a picture to the background. And let's change that picture. Just take me a second to get to the right place here. And of course, I'm not boring you guys with all of the pictures and locations and HTML files and all that right now. Nice. Okay, there's the picture I want to grab in. This is one that Kat over at Retail Pro used for the certification process. So I'm going to put Kat's picture back in there. So I'm basically just saving that over the top of the other picture, which I've already got called up, and then we just go in and refresh, and it pulls a different picture in there. So we could, we could play around with pictures all day. It's pretty easy, pretty exciting. But now the roadmap. Obviously, this is point of sale, and point of sale is pretty well put together. We've got customers, we've got point of sale, we've got XE out. We probably should do an XE out. Pretty much the same as Retail Pro again. Wow, overshort $3.14. That's pretty amazing. So here's the printout again, very similar to current printouts for Retail Pro. Dollar section, all cards, American Express, Visa. Filter criteria at the top, sales, returns, and cash flow, all the same stuff. Anyway, the roadmap as it stands today is that the point of sale module is here for point of sale, customer database, and XE out. The store operations, which is transfers and receiving, which is grayed out right now in my menu, is supposed to be available pretty soon here. It's supposed to be available fourth quarter this year. And so that's like next month after. And then next year in 2016, they're going to bring in inventory and reporting. So within the next year, we're going to have a fairly full-fledged package to offer as far as Prism goes. And at that point, when you can enter inventory and report and transfer and receive, you should be able to run Prism without having to have Retail Pro. Obviously, today, if you have Retail Pro and you're looking to upgrade or move into Prism, that'd be the way to go, is to start replacing some of your workstations with Prism workstations. Again, you have to be on version 9, but Prism is relatively inexpensive, and for a small fee, they'll exchange your licenses so you can start running Prism today. Anyway, that's all I have really for Prism this morning. Is there any questions? Does anybody have anything I can help answer? Did I not cover it well enough? All right, well, looks like Nicole left, and Robert, I'm guessing you got what you needed out of the webinar? So I'm going to say thank you very much for coming to the webinar today, and hope everybody has a good day. And we have a couple more of these scheduled this year. So if you're still interested in seeing this, we have this, and we're going to be migrating into a new webinar format where we bring Phenon and be in Prism all together. That's coming up next year. Again, thank you for joining us today, and have a good one.